Okay, 6 years, 4 years in between World Cups. It's come down to this. Match 23. We always knew that the starting lineup wouldn't have too many shocks, but it has one or two. That's the box starting lineup. For the quarterfinal against France, the bench, a couple of episodes ago, we said, it's a bombshell, it's coming. How did we know? Because we do talk to certain people, unbeknownst to other people. My friend.
Talk me through those sunnies, mate.
Fabien, this is Jean-Pierre. Petit quarterfinal. I don't know if Rassie is playing the mind games. Playing the world champion. He's playing with the 5-3 split. With the Springboks, maybe 7-1. For me, focus must be in France. Saint-Denis, Paris. But the Springboks is world champion, very, very strong, very physical. It is with these sunnies.
I think Goggles would be proud of that, mate. You did a great job.
I like the herbs in your garden. And I put the emphasis on the other side. Bonjour, Zels, ça va?
No, I'm doing well. Savat, I think he's still involved in them, isn't he?
Très bien, me too, man. Listen here, mate. Sunny's off. And
I like to see your eyes, mate.
Mate, so do I. Out of respect for the French as the host, I decided to don a French. It's actually not a rugby top, guys. It's the French Football Federation.
It looks very nice.
It's got a nice cockerel on it.
Did somebody
nice
say
on it.
frogs?
Someone say frags. And I thought, out of respect for France as the host, I would don the French colours for the first half of the show, because they are going home on Sunday night and we won't be seeing the French jersey or the French colours again in an official guise at this Rugby World Cup.
Correct.
We made a habit of knocking hosts out in a quarterfinal. We did it to Japan. The world hated it, but we destroyed them 26-3 in 2019. And we're going to do it on Sunday night in Paris. We're going to put the hosts out of the World Cup and add more misery to the Northern Hemisphere. I'm confident of that. But I also just want to say to the French people, I love you guys.
Thanks for the croissants.
I love your country. And I wear this very proudly. But I'm also going to be wearing green, even more prouder.
Mate, you've got green undies on, apparently.
I do, and it's G-Star Raw. Just want to know.
What a plug.
And I've got the nice green Converses on. The debate is, mate, are they Irish green or are they Springbok green?
Oh, beautiful. Well, I think both ways you get pretty safe.
And you wearing the fashionable black.
I am, mate. I am.
Accentuates those big guns you're
mate,
wearing, Jerry.
Mate, I'm 72 kilograms of twisted steel, mate.
Just say twisted. Someone say cockerel.
Listen.
Okay, the bench.
Listen.
Let's get to that box setup.
I'm glad that we're actually not talking rugby, because I really don't know what to say about these developments. It's redonkulous. If you said, okay, pick the team they're not going to pick. Pick a fake team. Just be ridiculous. Be a complete conspiracy theorist. Pick a team.
I would have had Villy in the 23.
It would look something like this. I mean, how do you make sense of this?
Mate, look, you and I have been in this game long enough to know that the 23 announced is not always the 23 that leaves the change room.
Indeed.
And much can happen in 48 hours in a
Much
build-up
will.
to a World Cup quarter-final.
Okay, where's your money? DuPont, yes or no? Does he play on Sunday?
DuPont does play, yes.
I would agree with that.
I can't believe they rushed him back, or kept him there, rushed him back, made all this hoo-ha, got the surgeons okay, and they don't pick him, not even on the bench. I think they really believe, obviously, that it's going to influence the way South Africa approaches the game, whether
Yes.
DuPont plays or not.
Of course.
And I think it's wonderful. There's a lot of mind games that have been going on between Rassie and, in a very understated way,
Goggles.
my good friend,
Yeah.
Goggles Geltier. And they very settled. Their 15 hasn't changed much from when they played us in Marseille. Our 15, by and large, hasn't changed much in terms of the players involved. It's ramping up to what we thought would be the World Cup final.
Yeah.
And if only this was the World Cup
Yeah,
final. I mean, France at home against the Springboks. But you got to say, for us, we've played Ireland in the pool stages. We're playing France in the quarterfinals. We get through this one, as I think we will. Probably meet Ireland in the final again. Do them. There can be no questions that say, mate, you had quite an easy ride into that final. Then you certainly deserve to walk away with that trophy.
Yes. That was a very long answer to my question about DuPont. Does Kobus Reiner start this weekend at scrum half for South Africa?
I think he does.
With Manie Lebok?
I think he does, and you know why? Interesting chat I had with Rassie more than a year ago. When we went to Australia, Rassie, well, it's more than a year ago because he wasn't there. Jacques was there. And we lost that first test with a last-minute penalty, and Quade Cooper kicked it. And we got blown away in the second test when we tried to play Australian rugby, and they scored 4 tries against us. But Rassie said to me he learned one lesson there.
Yes. Always travel with the team.
That as well, yeah. Always travel with the team and with your video recorder, mate. And with an IT specialist. Send those videos out. But he said that experience is a non-negotiable in big games. And at the time, he said that they may have erred by starting with Kitsi, I think it was, in the loose end, and bringing Ox on to finish the game. And he said that last scrum, it just needed the old hand to settle it, get the ball in and kick it out. And Australia managed to kind of hoodwink a scrum penalty, and he brought that down to experience. And his thing was, in the biggest games in the international season, you want your most experienced players on the field in the last quarter, closing out the game. So when I look at the team that they've announced, he's loaded it with experience on the bench. And he may just feel that the youthfulness and the exuberance of youth and inexperience means they play without fear in the first 30, 40 minutes. He's always been a firm believer that you don't lose a test in the first 30, but you certainly lose it in the last 30. So when I look at that squad, I'm thinking he's given Lebok a bit of cover because Reinach's a far more conservative type 9 to Faf. He speaks French. He's been playing over there for the last 4 years. They have a lot of respect for Reinach. We got that email from a bloke who said he's very in with many of the French ex-players, and they can't believe that Reinach hadn't been picked ahead of Faf. We spoke about that in a previous show. So I think he will start, and I think he will start with Manie as he's picked him. It's a show of faith in the way they may feel he can bring the Kirtley Orances and Chesney Colbys into a game early on. But I do think you're going to see a hell of a lot of kick into the corner from Manie, where he's been outstanding, and no elaborate high-risk kicks for posts in the first 20 minutes from the Springboks. They can only damage his confidence. Because there's no Faf, man. So he's taking them all.
Yes.
You're not convinced, man, in black?
Your points are good. I'm just processing them. I like it. I like what you're saying. I also think that Lebok is not the goal kicker. Handre is the goal kicker. Dion Fourie is not the line-out thrower. Bongi is the line-out thrower. The way they've got that set up, you can't start Dion. You have to start Bongi. So then, if you put your goal kicker on with Bongi, and then you make your changes, then you've potentially got the guy who can't kick a goal and the guy who can't throw in at the line-out on the field to close the game out. So with Handre there, in the second half, on top of your experience that you spoke of, you've got a guy who can convert pressure into points. And in the beginning, when you get penalties, you put them out, you drive them over with Bongi. So that part of it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think, again, look, that first 40 is going to be an arm wrestle, okay? The French pack will stay with us for 40 at least. And they may stay with us for 70.
No, mate, they won't.
Well, there is no bomb squad here. We've got a good forward replacements bench. But this isn't 6 forwards coming on one side at one time and destroying you. I think our bench is stronger than their bench, especially up front. Not much to choose between the two packs that are starting.
Yeah.
We look at the starting pack. We're going to go work through everything now because lots to talk about on this Bok Friday. You look at that starting pack and everything reverse engineered from the quarterfinal back for Dwayne Vermeulen.
Yes.
They have been managing his time, giving him certain games. Jasper Vesper, he's unfortunately been used as the donkey who goes out and he takes the poundings. But when it came to the big moment, they've invested in the big guy.
Yes.
Thor. And I'm very happy they have.
That was the right call. We said it. I think that's definitely the right call. I'm surprised that they've pulled the trigger on that now, kind of raises a bit of questions about why we've invested so much time in Jasper, but I think it's the right call now.
Well, have they not invested time in Jasper in case Dwayne couldn't get them? They had to have a like-for-like type of replacement.
But is Jasper like-for-like? I mean, he carries strongly, but he's not good over the ball. Yeah.
I'm just talking his physicality and his carry, okay? Interesting that they've gone with Kwagga on the bench. Explosiveness, pace, which again talks to a lot of mind games in saying we're not going to go out there and play this just field position game because we have a 10 who can turn it on at any time. He's probably the best distributor of the ball left and right. He can kick with both feet equally well. I mean, he's a wonderful footballer.
Yes.
And in those first 20, 25 minutes, the pressure isn't as intense as the last 20 minutes where it could be a 15-12 game, and you're thinking, hang on a second, those posts start looking narrow, okay? As Jake would always say. Those posts go from there to there very quickly.
It's just one ball.
Yeah. It's Wolf actually from the side. I saw some videos of him, so maybe you should think of it like that. So the starting pack was always going to be the way. It's the starting pack that Rassie would have dreamt of potentially with Lut, the only one. If he had been fit, the rest it's the 8 he wanted to take out.
Yeah.
And to have those 8 available for a World Cup quarterfinal, kudos to the Bok coaches for the way they've managed the players, also to the medical staff, to the physios, and obviously down to a little bit of luck as well, the universe smiling on us, because rugby's a contact sport. People do get injured.
Yes, I think the pack picks itself, like you said. The halfbacks, for me, speaks to what the Boks are expecting in terms of the kicking game from France. I honestly expected this game to play out more like the semi-final against Wales, the sort of turgid kicking chess match. Maybe it's not going to go that way with Manie Lebok there, and who would put some fear into their minds. It's interesting that Manie Lebok and Kobus have started 2 tests together before. One of those was at Loftus Versfeld when we beat Australia with one Ben O'Keefe on the whistle. So I don't know whether there's something specific from that game that they liked, and it was a hefty win against Australia, who we now know are not very good.
But they did play some wonderful rugby, and again, Manie Lebok's ability to bring the outside backs into play. I watched a couple of clips out of the breakdown. Good on you, Mills, for calling a Bok win. John Kerwin, I don't know if he's actually ever watched the Boks play in the last few years. May have seen the scorelines, but he spoke about they've been true to the DNA, that's the Boks. Physical, kick the balls high in the air, chase, suffocate you. But they don't really play with their backs. I mean, yes, we do. JK, we do. We play a lot with our backs and we score lots of tries. And but he was saying he preferred a Lebok type player to bring those backs into play. He was quite complimentary. I think he knew, he took a beating on social media from the Saffers. But Mills was like Pollard, man. He's like Dan Carter. Pollard, put him there. So, look, I would have started with Pollard.
Same.
I would have started with Faf.
Same.
I can understand why they're playing this kind of game, and it could be a horses for courses. If they're playing Ireland or the All Blacks, I don't think you would have seen Manie Lebok start, or you would have seen Reinach start, if they had the choice to do it. So there is a logic to it. It's not necessarily one I would agree with.
Yeah.
But then my job's not on the line.
Well, spot on. And that's
neither is Jobs, because he's going to Leinster.
He's already got his next job. Yeah, but look, I for all intents and purposes, Rassie's going to go out in this World Cup, it seems like, and he must go out the way he wants to do it. Like, this is classic Rassie, right? One thing you can't accuse him of is being boring. So he's got a plan. We don't know what the plan is. There is a plan. Whether it works or not, that's another debate. And ultimately, we've had this conversation for a couple of years now about we don't know what Rassie's doing. We believe he's got a plan, and hopefully it pays off. And this is the game where, and the next 3 games are like that, assuming they win, it all comes down to this. All the smoke and mirrors and all the sideshows and all the juggling, it's either all going to make sense or it's all going to crumble in these knockout matches. If they go forward and win, then his planning will have made sense. And if they don't, we're going to look back and say, why did we sacrifice matches against Wales? And that's just the nature of the beast.
Okay, so let's just talk the pack. No complaints. Understandable, the starting pack.
None.
Replacement forward, Dion Fourie has to be there. There's no Malcolm Marx. He's at home injured.
Yes. I'm
Vincent
slightly
Koch.
I'm
Are you
surprised. I'm surprised Bob Parr from The Incredibles is there. I thought Trevor would get the nod. I don't know if maybe there's an injury question mark over Trev.
Yeah, I can only think that there may have been a niggle because he is so comfortable playing both sides, lucid and tight head. I mean, he's just an ideal specimen to have on the bench. I go back to that scrum against Ireland, that first scrum with Trevor on the tight head, Bongi and Ox, and I mean, they just pulverized them, man. So yeah, I would think that.
And also, what's Vince's involvement been? He took a knock and had to pull out of a game, and then he did a shoulder pass. Other than that, we haven't seen a lot of him
Really
recently.
a shoulder pass, more like a falcon, okay?
You know what I mean? We haven't seen a lot of the guy, so...
Yeah, I just wish he could bring some of that old Saracens form to the
Some
fore.
of his Pumas form, I'll take that. Before he even made it to the Storm, he was a freaking boss at the Pumas.
Well, Mr. Incredibles, they're not Mr. Dependable, so that's the one, but we believe that it may be because Trevor's got a cough or he's picked up a niggle or...
He tweaked an ankle dancing.
Maybe
karaoke
curfew,
night.
I don't know.
Karaoke
but,
night.
Then obviously Ergier was always going to be a gimme. It was what's the split? So Jean Klein misses out because of the split. And then the surprise to a lot of people would be that when they've just chosen the one loose forward, they've said Marco van Staden, we don't need you. They've said Jasper Visser, we don't need you. Kwagga Smith, we need you. How's that guy come through in the last 2 years? Eh?
Yeah, how indeed.
Eh?
It's just odd. That's what I'm saying. Is there's no, if this was a murder mystery, mate, everybody would still be on the table with the last page to turn.
Columbo would be saying, just one more question. Is that Kwagga with two G's? Or is that Jasper with a J?
I don't know what to make of that bench. I'm surprised that JK, the Munster Monsters, are not there together. I'm surprised that we've got Lucky Am back in the mix, but he's not in the matchday squad. Or is he a guy that they would consider for the semi-finals, not having played at all? I don't know.
Yeah, interesting options when you've got Kane and Moody and Lucky Am, Lukanya Am, sitting in the stands. It's like, I remember that All Black 2007 quarterfinal in Cardiff, 2018 to the French. The All Blacks rested 4 or 5 players for the semi-final. And they never quite got there. Aaron Major being one of them.
They're fresh though, mate.
Aaron Major being one of them, sitting in the stands, watching this chaos unfold. So, look, they are the closest to the action, Rassie and Jacques.
Exactly.
If they're not picking Lukanya Am, it's because they feel he's not ready.
Correct.
If they're not picking Kane and Moody, they feel that the Kurtley Arons, Cheslin Colby, Damien Williams, back three attack. And what they offer adds more value at the moment. And this may be Kanan's introduction into World Cup rugby. He's barely turned 20. So all things considered, this guy could play another 3 World Cups.
Yes.
So they know the players more than anyone else. I'm just a bit surprised that the talk pre-World Cup was the unleashing of Kane and Moody on the world. He was going to be potentially the top try scorer. And he hasn't really played, has he?
Yeah, and it also takes away from the whole build-up idea that everything is part of building. I mean, Rassie says we've created depth, and we have created... We do have a deep squad because they've been around together for so long and the French players have got game time. There are some positions where we have almost no depth, but we have got a squad where we can interchange. We've got the luxury of saying, we're not going to take Kane and Moody this week. We're going to play Kurtley Arons. We're not going to play Lukanya Am. We're going to play Jesse Creel. That is a luxury. There aren't a lot of teams in the world that can do that. But it's very difficult to draw a line through the path from the last World Cup to this World Cup and see how we got this squad for this week. That's what I'm saying. There's a little bit of a lucky packet feeling to the squad.
I absolutely...
And I'm not saying they're guessing.
I absolutely disagree with you,
I'm
mate.
not saying they're guessing. I'm not saying they've chosen the squad by picking names out of a hat. What I'm saying is it's very difficult to look back and go, oh, okay, so this is what we were doing. This is how we got here.
Do you not think it's a horses for courses approach? If we're playing Ireland or New Zealand, that bench may look a bit different. It may be a 6-2 split. That backline may look different. If we, as I think we will do, win on Sunday, I don't see this 23 looking the same for a semi-final. No,
I agree with that. But for me, I'm the kind of guy I would say we're picking our best team this week and we're going to play this team, regardless of who we play. These are our best players. These are the guys we're playing. Horses for courses is a lekker idea, but it also has the potential to blow up in your face.
But is it as simple as saying our best team? Because you may be the best 10 against certain opposition, but I'm the more effective 10 against other opposition. So let's take best and kind of like just park it for a moment, because it's like legend. It's thrown around quite comfortably, okay? And what does define best? So is it not what's most appropriate for the occasion? So if you look at the 5-3 split against France, you look at the makeup of the players that they have on that bench.
Yes.
What would you read into that? What are they saying about the French team?
Okay, so yeah, I can't actually comment too much on the French bench. What I will say is that in terms of picking players, horses for courses for different opponents, the thing I don't like about it is it makes you reactive. It means that what you're doing is you're saying, well, where these guys a threat, how can we change to take advantage of it? And I understand the theory behind it. I'm just saying South African rugby isn't built on reactive. We are assertive. We dominate the collisions. We take control of it. That's always been our MO. So I'm not saying it doesn't work and it can't work and it's a bad idea. I'm just saying I'm surprised that the Boks are doing that in a playoff game. Having said that, the guy who's in charge won the last World Cup and he's won some big games too. So he obviously has a plan. I'm just not sure whether I subscribe to the thinking.
I see your composure's coming back again. That you're
very composed.
You were a bit thrown out there.
No, I wasn't thrown out.
You're not even giving us the raw. That's fourth time I've asked for the raw.
Ricky needs to have a sip of his coffee.
Yeah, don't spill it. Ricky came here with no name brand coffees today. The French bench is nothing spectacular. That's all you need to know. But they do have a fiery hooker who comes on. I like that guy.
Yes. He's a hell of a player. I don't know why. He reminds you of Fasahi. That Lions hooker. He's got a bit of a rumble to him. He moves around. He's quite an athlete and physical.
All right. Talking of the French team, there's a lot of perception out there, a lot of romance out there, and a lot of ill-conceived truths. Because the French team doesn't have flair. They don't have romance. Under Fabien Galtier and Sean Edwards, they have become one of the best coached, drilled, disciplined teams in the world that rely on a fantastic defensive structure, rely on absolute brilliant kicking off the tee. Flock Cilliers, the former Springbok, he is their kicking coach. He's done wonders with their kickers. They are playing so unemotionally. And so it's something that's so anti the traditional French way, which could explain why they've never won a World Cup. They've never won big games when it's mattered most. If you look at the statistics, and stats can be misleading, so we've got to put it into context. If you look at the Boks at this World Cup and you look at France at this World Cup, 4 matches, they both had one big game, and then against the minnows. So some of the stats, offloads, line breaks will be a bit different depending on the opposition. But there's a general trend that tells you the DNA of these two teams. France, on average, have kicked out of hand 30 times a game. The Boks, 20.
They kicked 44 in the opener.
The Boks, 20, okay? France make, on average, 121 tackles a game. The Boks make 125. Both teams love tackling. France misses 18 on average. The Boks miss 19 on average. And their carries, 484 carries for France in 4 games, 494 for the Boks in 4 games. Discipline, pretty much the same, and the penalties they concede, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So the difference there is that their kickers off the tee have been far more accurate than South Africa, and both of them love to play without the ball. So if you look at that France game against New Zealand, there was no absolute flair. There was a kind of Springbok-type suffocation of New Zealand. New Zealand went ahead early. France clawed it back with a couple of penalties. Went in at halftime 9-8. New Zealand took the lead, 13-8, and then for the last 30 minutes, it was slow poison. They got the 2 tries, and the last one in the 78th minute and won 27-13. That is how this French team plays, and that's why they've been so successful. Very similar to the way Ireland plays. We used to associate Ireland and France with these like very emotional, passionate teams, and then kind of do they have the composure for the games. That's what makes this Sunday night contest for me so intriguing between South Africa and France. I think it's going to be a far better quality game than we saw in the semi-final in 2019 with Wales. And there won't be as much fear of not wanting to play because both teams have players capable of playing.
Yes.
But it's going to be a chess match between Fabien Galtier and Rassie Erasmus.
Big time. And that's the big evolution that's happened over the last 6 years. It's not so much that teams... I mean, France, they have flair. They are a team that can play with flair. It's not that they're not a flair team. What's changed is that in the past, teams like France used to see the set piece as an ideal opportunity to strike and move the ball wide and attack and offload and primarily. And now what's happened is they've turned into a team with Flocky Cilliers that's helping them They're a team that that plans to kick first, and they try and create situations where those kicks turn into carries for them. So they try and put the opposition in positions where they're going to get the ball back. And so when they get the ball back in those situations, they're not attacking a massive brick wall of defense. They're attacking a defense that's scrambling or was trying to come to terms with what's actually going on. They use their kicking game to create scoring opportunities. Those stats that you gave there show that Wales, that France and the Boks are carrying as much as they're tackling. And that just goes to show how their kicking game is working. Those guys, the carries are up there, they're near 100 per game. And the tackles are only at around 100. We're not. In the old days with Jacques Nienaber, those guys used to bang the ball downfield and then line up for 200 tackles in a game. That's not how the Boks are playing. That's not how France are playing either. The reason that a guy like JK thinks, oh wow, this is a French flair team, is because when the kicks turn into carries, they slice and dice and they score. And they're like, wow, this is a running team. They forget the source of that try.
And interesting, yeah, I'm backing green, guys. Interesting, only back winners. Interesting, from that New Zealand-France game, 62% of the game was played in New Zealand's territory. So France really know how to play a territory-based game.
Oh, New Zealand can't exit.
They can't exit. A guy like Beauden Barrett doesn't know how to exit. He just wants to kick that ball away because these players up front don't really give him the platform.
Correct.
We're going to get to Ireland and New Zealand just now. On the box setup.
Yeah.
We've seen the 23. I'm convinced that's how the 23 will start. I don't think you are as convinced. And I do believe that Dupont will play, which I don't think makes that much of a difference, given that it's an injured Dupont that's going to come out. Regardless of people saying he's Superman, when we played them in Marseille, he was red carded in the 48th minute.
Yes.
Somehow France also just kind of managed to hold on in that game. But they primarily did it because Peter Steff was sent off in the 12th minute. Mm-hmm. They went 13-0 up. When Dupont was sent off in the 48th minute, we fought our way back into the game and we led 26-22 on 65 minutes and went total control of that game.
Beautiful.
Dion Fourie got yellow card in the 70th minute. Boom, boom, boom. We're down, and the prop scores in the 77th minute, 75th minute, and we lose through a late penalty by Ramos in the 78th minute. Playing 14 French against 13 South Africans, so lots of width and space, and their 2 tries come from the 2 props.
Yes.
So much for the French flair.
Exactly.
And where was pick and goes? So 30-26 in Marseille, a very different mentality to this box. My belief is 15 plays 15. The Springboks win by 12 points. They win this game 32-20 and comfortably. 15 on 15. We don't know what the referees are going to do in terms of yellow cards, red cards, but if it's a contest, and all things considered, I have the Springbok team to advance to the semi-finals of the World Cup with a very emphatic 32-20 win against the host, France.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Yeah, look, I was very bullish about the Boks before I saw the team. So I still think South Africa wins this game. I had them by 10. I'm gonna just shave a few points off that now. I'm saying the Boks to win this thing 27-22.
So it's a good call. And you know what's interesting about that 27-22? The Boks have scored 22 tries in their 4 pool games and France have scored 27.
Mate,
now that's a statistic.
written in the stars. How did you know that?
Bok. Ben O'Keefe. Listen here, we got all Bokke here. Bok Friday, Bok Saturday, and Bok Sunday. It's going to be a big one. 9 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday evening. I hope you've booked off on a Monday. Lots of celebrations. And there'll be a breeze in the semi-finals, and we're back to play Ireland in the final. Ireland, it's got to be, mate. I know you're wearing black. I know you, like all the New Zealanders, are just holding out for Richie McCaw to come out of that tunnel. Dan Carter, I'm back. Sonny Ball Williams, Ma'u Nonu, and the boys, Kieran Reid. I looked at that 23 that they've picked, and the bench is just like, wow. This is what you're taking into a quarterfinal. And then I looked at that 2015 All Black squad. That was just sensational. And the only team that could kind of compete with them were the Springboks. And you looked, Beauden Barrett, bench. Sonny Ball Williams, bench. And the impact that they made. And I watched an interview with Jim Hamilton and Justin Marshall, the World Cup one on Rugby Pass. Lovely interview.
Yeah.
Justin Marshall just calling it like it is. And saying, when you look at South Africa and France and Ireland, when their bench comes on, he says there's a dynamic. They break tackles. They do things. When the All Black bench comes on, it's ho-hum, it's the same. And his thing was that he never felt as an All Black player in a very successful period that anyone ever feared them. It was more the uncertainty. You beat a team enough times, they're uncertain whether they can ever beat you. And he said that uncertainty has gone with Ireland, and a team like the Springboks and even the Wallabies feel they can always beat New Zealand because they have beaten them in the past. But a side like Wales, who hasn't won for 60 or 70 years, don't feel they can, and a side like Scotland never has. So it's kind of getting that breakthrough win. I then looked at some old highlights as well from the last couple of World Cups. I watched the 2015 quarterfinal package against Ireland in Dublin, where Ireland took 40 points against the Pumas, and 2019 when they took 46 points against the All Blacks. This Irish team is not that team, those two teams.
No.
This is a very different Ireland. This is the greatest Irish team in their history.
Agreed.
And one of the best that has played the game in the professional era.
Agreed.
And I'm backing them to get their 18th win on the trot and to send New Zealand home, to put them out of their misery, to get Fozzie out of that black jacket and get Scott Robinson in. I believe there will be a rejuvenation of the All Blacks over the next 4 years, but it's not going to happen this weekend.
Who's winning the next World Cup?
Mate, it's not Australia, I can tell you that, even though they're going to be hosting it. So let's just find out who's going to be winning on Saturday and on Sunday. All the talk coming out of New Zealand is they've got a game in them. But then you look at that pack, and they just don't have the pack to trouble Ireland.
No, they don't have the pack to trouble Ireland. The reality is Ireland are going to equal the record this week, break the record next week, and then their winning streak is coming to an end in the final against the Boks. Ireland, this whole evolution began with Ireland trying to emulate the Kiwis. They successfully did that to the point where they beat them in New Zealand. And now it's gone full circle. The Kiwis are trying to emulate Ireland. They're going to try and out-Ireland on Saturday night. It's not going to work. They don't have the guys up front to do it. The guys on the bench are young, lack firepower in some positions, and are just, by All Black standards, pretty standard.
If you look at the 42-90 win at Eden Park, and you look at the 35-20 win against the Boks at Mount Smart in Auckland as well, it was a very powerful opener from the All Blacks. They played with pace, they played with tempo, and everything stuck. And Ireland were a little bit cold in that opening game, and the Boks were very cold in that opening stanza. But both showed enough as the game wore on to kind of claw back, not necessarily on the scoreboard, but claw back in terms of the balance of the play. And as that kind of enthusiasm, that passion, that pace that the All Blacks played, as that lessened by minutes 50, 55, you saw all the deficiencies come out in the All Black game again. There wasn't that control, there was that franticness. Even if New Zealand gets out to a blitz start, Ireland systematically will claw it back.
Spot on.
Because they won't be frazzled. I mean, Andy Farrell said it. They've learned to live with being number one in the world and embrace it. They don't have the inferiority complex. Now, everyone says this is the All Blacks. Well, the All Blacks' 112-year history with 28 tests, 27 wins and 1 draw. That was the All Blacks in Ireland. They've lost 5 of the last 8 since 2016, and progressively Ireland has got more comfortable playing them, and they've lost 3 of the last 4.
Yeah.
And the score, even though it hasn't been radically big in terms of points differential, still 11 remains the biggest one for Ireland. That's that 40-29 in Chicago, which was an exhibition game for all intents and purposes. But then they won 29-20. They've won 16-9. They won 23-12 in Wellington. And then obviously Dunedin, I think it was when they took it 32-22. New Zealand fought back well from 22-3, but the damage was done. You always felt Ireland's pack was going to take control again. I think Ireland are a better coach team. They're more disciplined, and they really have a steely edge that this New Zealand doesn't have.
I'm not. I mean, look, Ireland will definitely have a more steely edge than this New Zealand team, but I wouldn't say this Irish team, in terms of the professional era of rugby and the physical teams we've seen before, I don't really rate them particularly highly in that department. They're technically very, very slick, maybe the slickest. I mean, they're right up there with Eddie Jones's Brumby Wallabies. You know, they can play the game. These guys are smart and they're slick and they're very efficient. For me, though, you know, we've had question marks about just how physical are they, but after 17 wins in a row, at some point you have to start giving them credit. And if this Ireland team that's been building the way it has can't beat this All Blacks team when it matters most in a World Cup to get to a semi-final, then they're never going to get to a semi-final. This is their moment. They will take it on the weekend. Major red flag out of the All Blacks camp. Things are in disarray. You expect the guys to really be back-to-back, shoulder-to-shoulder, forming up in square to defend the badge. And you've got Mark Talia dropped from the squad for an indiscretion, breaking team rules or whatever. That's a very bad reflection on Fozzie and just what the team culture is. And we've kind of hinted at it. We've spoken about it. I just think this All Blacks team is off the boil. They know they're off the boil. Their waning success rate against Ireland over the last 5 years coincides with their waning physicality over the last 5 years. They've got a backline built for speed with two centres that can run, and they've got limited punch. I don't see them beating the world's number one ranked team this week.
Well, if you look at what Ireland have done, you look at the inspirational players they got, and especially up front, then you look at the All Blacks. Ardie Savea, as potent as he is, would not have broken into the Jerome Kinu, Richie McCaw,
Never.
Kieran Reid back row. He would have been on the bench. So you look at that All Black side and say, which one of that starting 15 would make a world 15 right now? Not one of those players.
Correct.
In the old days, and we're not talking 5-6 years ago, 7-8 of those All Blacks make it and make it quite comfortably.
Yeah.
So the dynamic has shifted. This isn't the All Black side that won the 2015 World Cup.
Yeah.
That fought to win the 2011 World Cup, that's won so many big games. This is an All Black side that in the last 4 years between World Cup cycles has played 12 matches, 6 against the Springboks, 2 against France, and 4 against Ireland, and they've won 4 out of the 12. They haven't beaten France, they've lost twice in Paris to them. They've won 1 against Ireland, that's 25%, and they've got a 50% record against us. And they've played a couple of games at home as well.
Yeah.
And we left them off the hook,
Yeah.
okay? So I'm assessing the All Blacks based on that 4 out of 12, looking at the pack that they've got.
Yeah.
You got Dan Coles and Sam Whiteblock. That's what's coming off your bench. With the
Takiara,
greatest respect to those two players, they have been icons of the New Zealand game for the
Spot
last
on.
decade. At some stage, both considered in their respective positions of hooker and lock as the best in the world. But that's not going to really terrify or cause any uncertainty with a side that's balanced and it's kind of settled as Ireland. So I'm going Ireland to break their own record and to win 35-20 and make it the highest ever victory for Ireland in points differential in the history of the game.
Whoa! That's a hell of a call.
It's not, mate. If you kind of just watch the two teams over the last 4 years, it's a pretty logical call.
I like it. Okay, yeah. I mean, I congratulations. I didn't have Ireland winning by quite that much, but I definitely have Ireland to win. I'm not sure. I had Ireland sort of 30-24. So let's see.
So you got Ireland by 6, okay? The interesting thing is the New Zealand Herald, by the way, had the Boks to win as well against France. But as I got a bit excited, and I saw they had the All Blacks to win as well. So I kind of that negated it.
Yeah.
But a bloke that I really respect his writing, I've known him for the best part of 30 years, Mark Hinton, who writes for Stuff. Him and Richard Nola are in Paris. They've been followed. They're with the All Blacks. And he wrote a very good piece around the possibilities. And in a World Cup playoff, like he said, anything can happen. A team can... two cards could end the game. But he had a comfortable 8-point win for Ireland. And Richard Nola had a comfortable 5-point win for the All Blacks. Saying they will play with passion, they'll come in and throw everything at it. But I think I got getting the sense they would just let them get out of there. Let's end this Sam Cane and Ian Foster era.
Spot on.
And it will go down as one of the most ordinary eras in New Zealand rugby. They may then reset, refocus, find the humility again. You know, the kind of like... The arrogance around that coaching setup, based on their lack of results, it's been inexplicable and rather confusing.
Yeah, very.
And I mean, you just hear in that Justin Marshall interview, he's talking about the things that Scott Robertson will bring to the thing. He will bring sharing. He may bring foreign imports in terms of the coaching setup. He took Ronan O'Gara to the Crusaders. He had Craig Bellamy from Melbourne Storm come in and work with the players, the rugby league coach. He went to Gridiron. He talks to football coaches. He travels everywhere. He's just not allowed to travel to the quarterfinal because Fozzie won't allow him to be in the stadium.
Makes Fozzie nervous.
That's the kind of insecurity that's been around this New Zealand team. and vulnerability, mediocrity, absolute disaster in terms of results, does strip any team of its aura.
Big time.
And these guys are imposters when you look at the great All Black teams and you look at the 3 World Cup winning All Black teams. These guys aren't fit to lace their boots.
Spot on. And
as a collective.
The reverse is true of Ireland, right? They've done everything right. Culturally, they build up, this win, this hot streak that they're on. Everything within that camp is exactly what you'd expect. It fits the profile of a championship team. And like, if you dress for success, you are successful. So,
but if you took for the colorblind people out there as well, if you stripped away the jerseys, colors, and I gave you a description of Ireland, you would say that's consistent with the very best New Zealand side.
Correct.
If I gave you a description of this current All Black side, you would say that's consistent with the most exciting yet vulnerable Irish team.
Yeah, spot on.
The one has got
Spot
a
on.
DNA that just speaks world class, and the other one has got a DNA that is hope, not conviction.
Yeah, agreed.
They're hopeful of a victory in New Zealand. It's not going to happen. It's going to be messy, not quite as messy as Twickenham, 35-7. Not quite as ugly as the opener, where they really didn't
pitch.
They didn't come out for the second half.
Yep.
27-13 to France. But it's going to be a comfortable win for Ireland. And all things considered, we saw the World Cup final. We got a dry run, 13-8 in an absolute thrilling contest that Ireland snuck it. The 2 best teams at the World Cup as far as I'm concerned, and they'll be there in the final. Looking at the other 2 quarterfinals, we're not going to spend much time on it. Wales will win. They always win against Argentina when it matters. Gats will take them through to a semi-final. Nice, easy draw. They'll be singing in the valleys. The boys will be happy. And 28-22, I got that game. And then, obviously, Fiji against England. Fiji have played their World Cup. They were sensational in conjuring up a defeat against Wales, and then bullied and beat up the Wallabies. Probably ended Eddie Jones's tenure there. They were a no-show against Georgia, and they really didn't arrive against Portugal. If you can't beat Portugal, mate, you're not beating England. I don't care how poor England are. England to win that game by 15 points.
15?
37-22.
So how many times has there only been one Southern Hemisphere team in the semi-finals of a World Cup? Do you know? I don't know. I looked at the numbers. It's been at least 2 in every World Cup until recently. I think we've always had at least 2.
You've always had 2.
2 Southern
more,
Hemisphere teams.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the World Cup where we are facing the very real prospect of having potentially one Southern Hemisphere team in the semi-finals. I think it is going to go that way, and I think it's going to go that way because my hopes were kind of on Argentina, as I've said before. Very disappointing at this World Cup. Czech has chosen a team. He's left Nico Sanchez on the bench again. They're going to get smashed by Wales. Well, not smashed. I got Wales by 8. I think 26-18. And then Fiji, as much as it's been a wake-up call from Portugal and England struggled in some of their games, I just don't see them putting it together for the 80 minutes required to beat England. England win the last final, despite the valleys and the hilltops that they've travelled to get here. I see England winning that one as well. England by 10.
So give me a score.
I'm going to say England 28-18.
Nice and conservative, eh? You're not a conservative guy. So 1 Southern Hemisphere team. That will be the Springboks that will be there in the semi-final. But it doesn't matter because it only takes 1 team to win it.
Wait.
Wales in the valleys, they'll be singing. For those who don't know, one last little stat. And I actually didn't know this because I had assumed we had played them somewhere else. We have only ever played France in a World Cup once. And that was 1995.
Underwater.
And when we played that polo match against him, I happened to be there.
Andre Bear with the...
And I flew from Joburg to Durban. It took us 5 hours because of the lightning and the thunder and the rain and all that. It was just chaos. We eventually landed in Durban. I was trying to get a taxi in those days. We didn't have Ubers. This guy said to me, like this kind of very strong Welsh accent, am I going to the rugby? And I said, sure, share a cab with me. And he's like, what do I do? And I told him, no, I'm a journalist, I'm a rugby writer, and I know that. And I asked him, like, where are you from in Wales? And he gave me this whole thing. And I said to, what do you do? He said, no, he also writes. He writes for one of the Welsh publications. And I said, oh, which one? And he gave me the name, and I said, what's your name? And he said, Gerald Davies. And I said, Gerald Davies, the winner, the legend. He said, I played a bit of rugby in my time. And he looks exactly the same.
No.
I mean, how could I miss that?
No.
So, yeah, so that was an interesting, interesting moment. What an incredible game that it came down to 6 inches. I don't think it's going to come down to 6 inches on Sunday. It's going to be a lot more in it for the Boks, a lot more comfort. But I always end on a tour tale, and we talk about team selection that. And Andre Markov, I had the pleasure of working with him on several occasions. Look, he's a fascinating character, okay? And he does bring great yarns to the thing. But he was as paranoid as hell. He believed it. He saw ghosts everywhere, shadows everywhere. He didn't realize it was his shadow that was making them. But Albert van der Berg told me a story once when he was playing for Griquas. And how Markies would... Everything was a state secret leading up to games, that kind of thing. And then he was convinced the one day that one of the locks was giving out the game plan to the
Giving out the game
plan to the
Wow.
opposition. Okay, this is when Markies want to make Griquas #1 in South Africa.
Yeah,
giving out the game to the opposition, and they trained that whole week with 4 and 5. These 2 locks. Okay, everything was built around these 2 locks. All the plays and everything. Had the team talk in Kimberley. This guy was so pumped, and as they got in the tunnel, he pulled him and he said, "You're out."
No.
And he changed the lineup in the tunnel.
No.
And
both locks.
No, the one
Just
lock
the
that
one
he
lock.
thought was giving the information. And they basically had to go out and play on instinct because
No.
everything they had trained for that week just didn't happen.
No.
So if you ask me, does the Pont play? I think if he plays, he's been told all week he's going to play.
Correct,
I
I
don't
agree.
think Fabian Gaultier is going to be pulling anyone out of that tunnel. Tune in at 9 o'clock. If you've got load shedding, fire up those things, get the laptops working. It's going to be a great weekend of rugby, probably the best weekend of the World Cup, given the contest that we got. The top 4 teams in the world, 2 of them will go home. We're convinced that it's going to be New Zealand on a plane, and it's going to be France watching from home.
Taking the bus.
As the Springboks and Ireland make their biggest World Cup statements.